There is a quiet that exists not in a place but in a person. It is an internal landscape, vast and hushed. For some, to be alone is not a state of loneliness but a state of arrival. This is not the solitude of the hermit fleeing the world, but the solitude of the deep-sea diver descending for the treasures only the depths can provide. It is a deliberate turning inward, a gentle closing of the eyes, not to sleep but to see more clearly. In a world that worships the hum of connection, the buzz of the crowd, this craving is often misunderstood. It is seen as a retreat, a weakness, social failure. But what if it is something else entirely? What if the need for solitude is not a void, but a sanctuary? This is the psychology of the mind that does not just endure being alone, but profoundly needs it to become itself. It begins not with a decision, but with a sensation, a low hum at the edge of hearing, faint pressure building behind the eyes. In a room full of conversation, the individual words begin to lose their shape, melting into a single, relentless wave of sound. Laughter, once infectious, now feels like a physical vibration against the skin, each peal a small demand on a dwindling reserve. The lights seem to grow brighter, harsher, highlighting every facial expression until the act of mirroring them, of performing the appropriate social response, becomes a conscious and exhausting effort. This is the unseen threshold. It is the moment the internal compass, long set to the magnetic north of the external world, begins to quiver and swing inward. There is no visible sign, no announcement. To anyone else, the person is simply there, present. Perhaps a little quieter, but inside, a silent countdown has begun. It is a biological end. Psychological signal as primal as thirst. The mind, oversaturated with the data of others, starts to seek its own baseline. The craving for solitude manifests first as a dulling of the social self. The smile takes a fraction of a second longer to form. The witty reply arrives a beat too late. The mind, once a participant, becomes an observer, watching the social dance from a growing, silent distance. The body often speaks the truth the mind has yet to acknowledge. A subtle tension gathers in the shoulders, a desire to fold inwards, to make the body smaller, less of a target for further interaction. The breath becomes shallow, held in the chest as if preserving a last pocket of quiet air. The world outside feels increasingly high definition, every detail sharp and aggressive, while the inner world becomes a muffled, beckoning haven. The need is not for sleep or for distraction, but for a very specific kind of nothing, a nothing that is, in fact, full of potential, a blank canvas upon which the scattered fragments of the self can slowly, without interruption, settle back into their rightful place. The journey across this threshold is a quiet rebellion against the tyranny of the collective. It is the gentle, firm act of turning down the volume on the world in order to hear the faint, essential frequency of one's own being. It is the recognition that the personality presented to the world is a complex and energy-intensive construct, and that for it to remain authentic, it must periodically be dismantled, inspected, and restored in private. This is not a rejection of the people one is with, it is a necessary tending to the source from which all genuine connection must flow. The relief of stepping into solitude is palpable, but it is a private victory. It is the click of a door closing, the sigh of a body sinking into a familiar chair, the conscious release of the social musculature. The silence that follows is not empty, it is a receptive, almost liquid presence. It is in this space that the decompression begins, the tangled threads of conversations, the unprocessed emotions absorbed from others, the half-formed thoughts that were interrupted, they all begin to unspool slowly, without urgency. The mind, no longer a processor of incoming stimuli, becomes a curator of its own collection. This is the sacred transition, from being a satellite receiving 1,000 signals to becoming a planet, whole and spinning in its own quiet orbit. This threshold is crossed daily in small and significant ways. The person who takes the longer, quieter route home, the one who lingers in the car for a few extra moments after the engine is turned off, suspended in the neutral territory between the world and the home, the one who wakes an hour before the rest of the household, not to be productive but simply to exist in the pristine quiet, to feel the contours of their own mind before the day begins to make its demands. These are not acts of avoidance, but of affirmation. They are the subtle, non-negotiable rituals of a psyche that knows its own requirements for equilibrium. It is the first and most vital step in the ongoing practice of coming home to oneself. Some minds are not built like houses on a busy street, open to every passerby. They are built like libraries or observatories, places designed for concentration, for preserving delicate and valuable things. The craving for solitude is not a sudden acquisition. It is woven into the very blueprint of a person. It is an architecture formed by both the raw materials one is born with and the landscapes one grows within. From the beginning, there is a neurological predisposition, a nervous system with finer tuning, a deeper processing capacity. For this mind, the world is not a series of discrete events, but a rich, complex, and continuous tapestry. A conversation is not just an exchange of words, it is the decoding of tone, of micro-expression, of subtext, of the space between the sentences. A walk down a city street is a symphony of sensory data. The glare of sunlight on chrome, the scent of food and exhaust, the crush of bodies, the Doppler effect of a dozen simultaneous music tracks leaking from headphones. For most, this is background noise. For the solitude-craving mind, it is foreground, each sensation given equal weight and requiring processing. This is not a choice, but a different way of perceiving. It is a mind that drinks the world through a straw, needing frequent pauses to swallow. Childhood for such a person is often a series of quiet discoveries about the nature of energy. They may have been the child at the bustling birthday party who found respite in the family dog, or who slipped away from the chaos to read in a corner. It was not that the joy was not felt, it was that the joy itself was overwhelming, a sugar rush that required a period of metabolic quiet to be fully appreciated. In these formative years, the self learns a fundamental equation. Social interaction, while valuable, is a withdrawal from a finite internal account. Solitude is the deposit. They learn, often without the words to express it, that to be alone is to recharge. It is here, in the quiet rooms of childhood, that the inner world is first furnished. It becomes a place of imagination, of intricate games of observation. It becomes reliable, while the outer world of peers and schoolyards could be fickle and confusing. The inner world remained a constant, predictable sanctuary. This architectural blueprint is reinforced by experience, a misplaced trust, a moment of social rejection that confirmed the safety of the internal fortress, or perhaps the opposite, a deep early connection with a book, a piece of music, or a natural landscape that taught them the profound dialogue that can exist between a quiet mind and a silent object of beauty. They learn that the most stimulating conversations can sometimes be the ones they have with themselves. The architecture is not built out of fear, though fear may lay some bricks. It is built out of a discovered richness. The mind realizes it contains multitudes, and to hear those voices, it needs silence. The structure, therefore, is one of depth, not of height. It is not designed to impress from the outside with a constant glow in every window. It is designed for the inhabitant. It has soundproofed walls to mute the cacophony of the world. It has deep, comfortable chairs for contemplation. It has a complex system of filing and storage for the immense volume of information it collects. It has a high ceiling for expansive thoughts and a strong foundation of self-contained purpose. This is the architecture of introversion, of high sensitivity of the observer. It is a mind that finds its power not in network speed, but in processing depth. To misunderstand this architecture is to see a closed door and assume emptiness lies behind it. The truth is the opposite. The door is closed not to keep the world out, but to preserve the delicate, intricate ecosystem within. It is a system that operates on a different rhythm, a slower, more deliberate cadence. The pressure to be constantly on, to perform extroversion, is like asking a library to function as a train station. It creates chaos, misplaces precious things, and violates its core design. The craving for solitude is Therefore, the wisdom of the organism seeking its optimal environment, it is the innate understanding of where it can best function, create, and feel whole. It is the blueprint, insisting on being followed. The world speaks of solitude as an emptiness, a barren stretch of time to be endured. But for the mind that craves it, solitude is not a desert, it is an oasis, it is a physiological and psychological necessity, a required state of non-stimulation where the overworked systems of the self can finally power down, repair, and reorganize. This is the science of restoration, the biology of becoming. Consider the brain after hours of social immersion. It has been a stage manager, a linguist, an empathy machine, a performer. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function and social conduct, has been working at capacity, carefully curating responses, inhibiting impulses, and navigating the complex web of interpersonal dynamics. This is metabolically expensive work. It consumes glucose and neural resources like a powerful engine consumes fuel. Simultaneously, the amygdala, the brain's threat detector, remains on a low, vigilant hum, scanning for social dangers, a sign of disapproval. Potential misstep. For a mind finely tuned to the subtleties of its environment, this is not a state of relaxation, it is a state of high alert. Then the threshold is crossed, the door closes, the silence falls. This is the moment the brain shifts its state. The demanding, externally focused task positive network begins to recede. In its place, the brain's default mode network flickers to life. This is not a state of idleness as was once believed. It is a state of vital internal engagement. The default mode network is the curator of the self. It is the network that activates when we are not focused on the outside world. It is the seat of autobiographical memory, weaving the threads of recent experience into the larger tapestry of our life story. It is the engine of self-reflection, allowing us to process emotions, to understand our own motivations, to make meaning out of chaos. In solitude, the brain is not shutting off, it is switching channels from live broadcast to essential internal editing. This is the cognitive consolidation that solitude provides, the jumble of the day, the conversation fragment, the unresolved problem, the fleeting feeling of irritation or joy. All of it is taken off the shelf, dusted off, and examined. Connections are made. Comment from a colleague links to a memory from childhood, creating a new understanding. A creative problem stuck in a loop of conscious effort is released into the quiet waters of the unconscious mind, where it can reconfigure without force. This is the incubation period that psychologists identify as crucial for insight. The mind, freed from the tyranny of immediate tasks, is allowed to wander, to associate freely, to play. This space, the most profound connections are often made. The body, too, enters a state of repair, the constant, low-grade stress of social performance, the maintenance of posture, the control of facial expression, the vigilance required to listen and be seen melts away. Cortisol levels drop, the nervous system shifts from its sympathetic fight or flight dominance to the parasympathetic rest and digest state. The heart rate steadies, the breath deepens, moving from the anxious chest to the calm diaphragm. This is a biological homecoming. It is the body being returned to its natural baseline state, away from the performance demanded by the social world. To see this process as passive is to misunderstand it completely. The mind in solitude is an active, vibrant ecosystem. It is composting the raw materials of experience into the rich soil of the self. It is not running from the world, it is digesting it. Without this period of restorative isolation, the mind is like a computer with too many applications open, its processing speed slowing, its memory fragmenting, on the verge of a crash. Solitude is the essential reboot. It is the quiet, dark, fertile ground where the seeds of experience can finally sprout. It is not a retreat from life. It is the very process that makes a coherent, resilient, and conscious life possible. There is a shadow that follows the retreat into solitude, a whisper that is not one's own. It is the voice of the collective, internalized. It speaks in the language of should. You should want to be with people, you should be more social, you should not need so. Much time alone, this is the guilt of the quiet, the persistent, low-grade ache that pathologizes a fundamental need, turning a sanctuary into a secret and a restored practice into a perceived failure. This guilt is a social artifact, a relic from a time when survival was inextricably linked to the tribe. To be apart was to be vulnerable, to be quiet was to be suspicious. Modern culture has metabolized this ancient fear into a cult of extroversion. Connectivity is celebrated as a virtue. A full social calendar is a badge of honor. The person who thrives in the spotlight, who is the life of the party, is the archetype of success and likability. Against this bright, noisy backdrop, the desire for solitude is cast in a negative light. It is framed as antisocial, a sign of sadness, aloofness, or even arrogance. The choice to stay home with a book over attending a gathering is not seen as a neutral preference, but as a quiet rejection of the community. And so, the person crossing the unseen threshold often does so with a conflicted heart. The body sighs with relief, but the mind buzzes with a second wave of noise, the noise of self-judgment. They replay the excuses given. I'm tired, I have work to do. These are often half-truths veiling the deeper, more vulnerable reality. I am full, I have reached my capacity for human noise. I need to be unperceived. But to say this aloud feels like a transgression. It feels like admitting a flaw. There is a fear that this need will be misunderstood, that it will wound others, that it will lead to missed opportunities and faded friendships. The very act of self-care is experienced as a form of social neglect. This internal conflict creates a peculiar form of double consciousness. Even in the heart of solitude, one can feel the phantom pressure of the social world. The phone on the table is a quiet accusation. The unread messages are a tally of expectations. The mind, trying to settle, wonders, should I have gone? Are they talking about me? Do they think I don't like them? The sanctuary's walls feel thin, permeable to the judgments of others. This is the paradox. The very solitude needed to recharge is often poisoned, at least initially, by the anxiety of having chosen it. The mind is not fully free to rest because it is still in part performing for an invisible audience, defending its choice. The guilt is most acute with those who matter most, the family, the close friends, the partner. To choose a room of one's own over their company can feel, to the sensitive heart, like a betrayal. The need for solitude becomes a difficult thing to negotiate in the economy of intimacy. How does one explain that the need to be away from everyone is not a need to be away from them specifically? It is a need that exists outside of personal affection, a fundamental requirement of the psyche, like the need for sleep. But unlike sleep, its necessity is not universally respected. To the loved one left on the other side of the closed door, it can feel like rejection. And sensing this, the one in solitude absorbs the guilt, the weight of another's potential disappointment layering onto their own self doubt. This is the silent burden of the solitude-craving mind. It carries not only its own rich inner world, but also the projected fears of the outer world. It must constantly translate its innate language of quiet into the more common dialect of social justification. It learns to apologize for its own depth, to minimize its own requirements for equilibrium. The journey toward self-acceptance is, therefore, not just about understanding one's own need for solitude, but about learning to hold that need gently in a world that often fails to understand it. It is about disentangling the authentic self from the web of shoulds and learning to see the quiet not as a deficit, but as a different kind of presence. There is a turning point, a moment of clarity that arrives not as a thunderclap, but as a slow dawn. It is the understanding that the path inward is not a dead end, but a spiral. One descends into the self not to escape others, but to return to them with more to offer. This is the solitude paradox. The deeper one goes into aloneness, the more capable one becomes of true connection. The hermit withdraws and disappears. The integrated self withdraws and returns again and again, the well of its presence refilled. This realization often comes after a period of struggle, after the weight of the guilt has become too heavy to carry. It is the moment one stops seeing the need for solitude as a problem to be solved and begins to see it as a rhythm to be honored. Like the tide, the Self has its natural cycles of engagement and withdrawal. To resist this rhythm is to create a perpetual state of inner conflict, to be neither fully present with others nor fully at peace alone. The turning point is the conscious decision to stop resisting the tide and to learn instead to swim with its current. In this space of acceptance, the nature of solitude itself transforms. It is no longer a guilty secret or a defensive retreat. It becomes a chosen practice, a deliberate and respectful dialogue with the self. The mind, no longer preoccupied with self-judgment, is free to do its deepest work. It sorts through the accumulated experiences of social life, separating what belongs to the self from what was absorbed from others. It processes unspoken tensions, unexpressed joys, and moments of misunderstanding. It allows emotions to be fully felt without the pressure to perform or hide them. This internal processing is not narcissistic, it is hygienic. It is the mental and emotional equivalent of cleaning a wound, of digesting a meal, of organizing a cluttered room. One emerges not empty but ordered, not drained but clarified. And from this state of inner clarity, a different quality of presence becomes possible. When the solitude-craving mind returns to the social world, it is not merely performing a role, it is coming from a place of genuine resource. The patience that was frayed has been restored. The capacity for deep listening, which requires a quiet mind, is now available. The self that was fragmented by 1,000 external demands has been reassembled into a coherent whole. This wholeness is palpable. It allows for conversations that are not just about filling silence, but about true exchange. It allows for empathy that is not a draining performance, but a natural overflow from a full cup. The paradox extends to creativity and understanding, the insights that bloom in solitude are not meant to stay there. The solution to a problem, the line of a poem, the new understanding of a relationship, these are gifts from the deep self brought back to be shared with the collective. The mind that craves solitude often acts as a filter for the group, processing complexity and returning with simplicity. It is the quiet member who, after a long debate, offers the single sentence that clarifies everything. That sentence was not formed in the noise of the debate, but in the silence that followed. This is the ultimate integration, to see solitude and connection not as opposites, but as two essential phases of a single breathing system, the out-breath of engagement, the in-breath of withdrawal. One cannot exist without the other, without inducing suffocation. The mind that understands this no longer feels torn. It knows that its time alone is what fuels its time together. It knows that to be the best friend, partner, parent, or colleague it can be, it must first honor its need to be, authentically and completely. With itself, the closed door is no longer a barrier, but a membrane, semi-permeable, allowing the self to become distinct so that it can later blend with others in a more meaningful, nourishing way. The final stage is not an end state, but a method. It is the daily, quiet art of weaving threads of solitude into the fabric of a connected life. This is not about grand retreats or week-long silences, though it may include them. It is about the micro-practices, the small sanctuaries built in time and space that allow a mind to maintain its equilibrium amidst the demands of the world. It is the conscious cultivation of aloneness as a form of hygiene, as essential as sleep and as nourishing as food. This practice begins with a shift in perception, seeing solitude not as a luxury to be earned after all obligations are met, but as a non-negotiable baseline requirement. It is the foundation, not the decoration. From this perspective, one starts to architect a life that has breathing room built into its structure. It is the conscious decision to leave blank spaces in the calendar, not as voids to be filled, but as fertile ground for the self. It is the ritual of the morning walk taken alone, without a podcast, where the only conversation is the sound of one's own footsteps and the rustle of leaves. It is the deliberate choice to sit in a cafe with a journal instead of a phone, to let the mind wander instead of being pulled into the digital current. The practice is deeply personal and idiosyncratic. For one person, it is the daily tending To a small garden, the quiet, repetitive motions of weeding and watering becoming a moving meditation. For another, it is the ritual of brewing tea with full attention. Following the steam as it rises and dissipates, it can be found in the focused solitude of drawing, where the world narrows to the line flowing from the pencil, or in the physical exertion of a long run, where the rhythm of the breath in the body consumes all conscious thought. These are not hobbies, they are anchors, they are designated periods where the social self is off duty and the core self is simply present, unedited and unobserved. This practice also involves the creation of physical sanctuaries, a corner of a room with a specific chair and a soft light, a particular path through a park that feels like one's own. These places become charged with the energy of quiet reflection. To enter them is to send a signal to the nervous system: you are safe to power down, you are free to be. In a world of open-plan offices and constant connectivity, the ability to carve out these small territories of silence becomes a radical act of self-preservation. It is the building of a personal monastery within the bustling city. Crucially, this practice dissolves the old binary of solitude versus connection. Life is no longer a pendulum swinging violently between exhausting social immersion and guilty, isolated recovery. Instead, it becomes a tapestry where the threads of aloneness and togetherness are intricately interwoven. A parent might find their solitude in the early morning hours before the household wakes. A professional might find it in the quiet focus of a deep work block, the door closed to colleagues but open to concentration. Partner might negotiate for an evening of separate pursuits in the same shared space. Quiet companionship that honors both the bond and the individual need for interiority. This is the final, gentle reconciliation. The mind that craves solitude no longer sees itself as being at odds with the world. It has learned its own language and has found or built a life that can accommodate its native tongue. The craving is not extinguished, it is befriended. It is listened to with the same attentive compassion one would offer a dear friend. The practice of alone becomes as natural as breathing, a regular, rhythmic, and essential return to the source. From this place of sustained inner quiet, one can engage with the vibrant, noisy, beautiful world, not from a deficit, but from a deep end. Overflowing reserve. The journey inward, it turns out, was always the path to a more whole and present life in the world.